if we keep pursuing Christ, we will be spiritually healthy and produce good fruit, or good works, as Paul says in this verse. What do we do? That's what I'm praying about for months, just knowing that this day was going to come and just asking God, what message do you have for us during this season of transition? What do you want us to do? What do you want us to focus on? My prayer during this time is that God would lead us and show us His direction during this season of transition, but in the meantime would also show us what it is that He wants us to do now. The short and quick answer to that is the same thing that He's called us to do before the transition started, the same thing He's going to call us to do after the transition. And that's just to pursue Him with all of our heart, with all our strength, with all of our mind, and just live for Him and serving Him and serving others. I came to the letter of Titus, and I believe that God has a great message for us. Who is Titus? Titus was Paul's representative. Paul calls Titus a true partner and fellow helper. Titus was Paul's assistant evangelist, his associate pastor, if you will. Now it's obvious that Titus is no longer with Paul because Paul's writing him a letter. So we've moved to verse 5 to see why they're separated. And verse 5 says, "This is why I left you in Crete, so that you might put what remained into order and appoint elders in every town as I directed you." So now we start to see the purpose of the letter unfolding. Paul leaves Titus behind in Crete. He knew that the people in Crete needed help. The church had not yet been established, and Paul had to leave Titus there to build a good foundation for the church. They did not have anyone else there in Crete to turn to, and I'm sure they were confused and lost. They were likely thinking what we've said in the title of the series is, now what? What do we do? You told us about our sin. You told us about Jesus Christ being the gift of salvation and how He paid the penalty for our sin. You told us to follow Christ with all of our heart, and now you're not here to teach us how to do that. So what are we supposed to do now? They needed to be reminded of what they were called to do in the first place, to pursue Christ. What does that mean practically in our day-to-day life? We should be focused on being healthy trees that bear good fruit. Focus on growing in our love for Christ and being led by the Spirit. If we keep pursuing Christ, we will be spiritually healthy and produce good fruit, or good works, as Paul says. And actually, if you look at good works and you look at Titus, it's mentioned 6 times. 6 times in this short letter that good works is mentioned. It is clear to see that we're called to good works. God wants us to pursue good works, not for us to earn or achieve our salvation, but as a way of honoring Him. So the question, what do you do during the season of transition? Now what? During this season of transition, we begin to be distracted by all the changes that are happening and worried about and the future holds. Let's take heed to Paul's letter to Titus. May we learn or simply be reminded of what we're called to do as a Christ follower. Let us see that before this season of transition, during this season of transition, and after the season of transition, that Jesus has called us to good works.